Thank you very much for coming. I'm very aware that it's quite late. I was going to get you to jump up and down just to wake you up, but then I thought, no, you don't want to do that, do you? Hands up who would like to jump up and down? Hands up who doesn't want to jump up and down? Wow. Okay, everybody stand up. Come on, let's stand up. Stand up, come on. Now, no, wait. We won't do the jumping up and down thing, right? What we will do is we will raise your hand, raise your right hand, right? Now put it behind the back of the person next to you. Behind the back, right? And go like this, go, well done! Well done! Right, you can even give them a hug if you want, you can say, well done! All right, yeah, you can jump up and down. Jumping up and down is very good. Yay! Okay, yeah, now sit down. All right, so well done for coming to this talk. Well done for staying here. Well done for coming to the conference. Excellent, well done. As you can tell, I'm a bit interactive. I jiggle around, which is why I've got this microphone and why I'm moving around. I'm going to be talking quite fast because I've got a lot to get through. I will look at your faces, and if you are smiling, I will keep going at the same speed that I'm going, right? If you're looking like this, then I will start to slow down, right? So if you want me to keep going at a good pace, keep smiling at me, right? Don't go like this, right? Because otherwise I'll just slow down, and you will want to fall asleep. Okay, so this is UEA. Right, this is the University of East Anglia. It's a campus university. It's a very lovely place to go and study. It's in Norwich, which is in the east coast of the United Kingdom. And what I am involved with is two programs, the pre-sessional and the in-sessional courses. Pre-sessional is before students go to the university. In-sessional is while they're at the university. And I've talked to teachers here in Russia about this concept, and it seems to me that in-sessional, a lot of in-sessional is what you do already, right? You are involved in working with departments, you're involved in providing support for students in departments, and often that support is very specific, right? But what I'm going to be talking about is how we have integrated the English into the departments, what we have done to, as we said, get engagement, attendance, and practical value. And so what I'm basically going to be stating is this mathematical formula that I've come up with, which is, right, very simple mathematical, that was a joke, you were supposed to laugh. Because that's not a mathematical formula. Let's try that again. This is a mathematical formula I've come up with. Excellent, well done. Yes, good. Okay, we're on the same page here. All right, I make a joke, you laugh. That's the rule. All right, so what I'm basically saying is that value creates engagement and attendance, and that what our job is, or at least what I see my job is creating value for the students, making sure that the students understand that value, right? And so what I'm going to do is divide this talk into three sections, right? So basically, what I'm talking about is what is of value to the students, identifying that, right? Then how do we identify this objectively? How do we know that this is really of value? And then finally, I'm going to give you some examples of this. So it's not all theoretical, it's me showing you examples. And if you're interested in getting in touch and saying, Tony, can I have more examples? Can I talk to you? Then that's fine. But we're going to start with what is of value to students. Now, I don't like bullet points very much. Hands up anybody who likes bullet points. Okay, please go now. You will have some bullet points, but you won't have very many bullet points, right? I'm much more of a visual kind of person, and so I create visual presentations, and I move around and, The person with the camera is probably at this moment going, oh my God, just stand still. All right? Hello, everybody. Because I'm not going to stand still. I'm going to keep moving around. All right? So what I'm going to basically do is talk to you about how we create value in our integrated courses. Right? And basically what we're talking is recognition of student problems, right? And how we do that, how we identify the student problems. Right? So we are basically looking at understanding the course, and the course is split, as far as the students are concerned, the courses that they're on are split into two areas. Right? The assignments and the assessment, and making sure that they understand the timings of those. And so it's important for us, I would say it was, especially important for me as a manager of a program, that I understand the assignments, I understand the assessments that the students are going to do, and I understand the timing of those two things. Right? And then what we have to do is understand the requirements of those assignments in terms of general and specific areas. Right? You see what I was saying about bullet points? No bullets here, just nice pretty pictures that animate. Ooh. Try that again. They animate. Excellent. Well done. We're on the same page. Good, good, good. All right. So in terms of general, right, what we're doing is we're looking at the general priorities, expectations, and evaluations that the students are going through. Don't take a picture yet. I'll tell you when to take a picture because I haven't finished all of this. Right, I'll tell you, you can take a picture, right, and then I'll give you enough time. Right, camera's down for just a minute because it's not finished. Okay, so general, and then we've got the specific. Right? It's not finished yet. Don't wait. Don't take any pictures. Right? There's still space. Look here. Right? Space. Right? Basically, if there's space on a slide, I haven't finished yet. Okay? So we're talking about the department requirements, the tutor's requirements, because often this is really as simple as getting inside the head of the tutor, right? Understanding what that tutor thinks is a priority, what expectations that tutor has, and how that's reflected in the department. And that translates into tasks and texts. Now, this space. What do you think this space is for? What is one of the most important things? Anybody who went to a session that I just did, which was rather last minute, but hey, I did it, should be able to tell me. It's related to C? Nobody? Common European Framework. How am I going to fit Common European Framework in there? Jamie, sorry, no. Not going to happen. Right? It's culture. Right? So it's the culture of the university, the general culture, the requirements that they're setting, and how that is instantiated, how it shows itself in terms of the criteria. Right? So that's a basic diagram. Okay, now you can take the pictures. Right? That's your basic diagram, as I understand it, or as I have created it, of how we create value. Right? And what I'm saying is that we need, or certainly I need to make sure that I have covered all those bases, that I understand all those areas when I'm trying to talk to students from particular departments. Because if I don't understand those things, it will show to the students, and they will be asking me questions that I can't answer, and then I'll be going back to the tutor and going backwards and forwards, backwards and forwards, backwards and forwards. And what I try to do as much as possible is make sure I have that information before I do anything. Right? So, do that. How do I do it? Right? How do we get this? Now, here is where we look at ESP and EAP. Right? ESP, English for specific purposes. EAP, English for academic purposes. Now, EAP came from ESP. Right? ESP was there first. They're the big daddy. They're the boss. Right? And ESP basically grew out of a tradition of needs analysis. Right? That needs analysis is what created ESP. People basically said the needs of people studying this are very different from the needs of general students, or these people have particular needs. Right? So what we're trying to do here is to create a needs analysis that allows us to gather that information that I've just gone through. So the needs analysis has 4 parts. Right? We're looking at 4 separate areas in terms of student problems, literature, texts, and tasks. Okay? So in looking at student problems, what I have tried to do, as far as possible, is to talk to students one-to-one, but more often to create surveys and to create interviews to say to the students, what are you worried about? What are the aspects of the culture that are causing you problems? Because very often, in my experience, the teachers think that the problem is in terms of language. But very often what the students are struggling with is aspects of culture. So I will often talk to students about the text that they're writing and try to explain to them, you're not doing enough evaluation. And the student will look at me like many of you are looking at me right now because you forgot to smile. Which is they'll look at me like, huh? And I will say, what is the problem? And they will say, but look, page, 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 page. Look at all the reading I did. Look at all my references that are in here. And they will turn to the back and they will say, page of reference. There's lots of information in here. And there's my problem. There's lots of information in here, but you haven't done anything with it. Right? You have just told me what you have read. Right? There is a very simple idea that was suggested 20, 30 years ago of looking at writing as moving from telling to transforming. Right? That you are not telling the reader what you know, you are transforming it in subtle ways. One of the most subtle ways could be comparing. Right? So if you have a definition, you can compare it to another definition. Now that might seem rudimentary, but if you are evaluating, if you are analyzing, if you are looking at how those definitions fundamentally differ, then you're doing evaluation, you're doing analysis. But what I commonly find is that students will give a lot of information, will tell me a lot of information, but won't necessarily transform it. And when I say to them about this, they again look at me as if I've grown a second head, because they think that telling me is enough. So I talk to students about culture, I talk to students about the aspects of culture that are causing them problems. And then I look at this in terms of the research literature. Right? I look at what the research literature says about these different areas. And I look at this in terms of the texts that they are writing, right, to see how this shows itself. And I look at this in terms of the tasks. Right? Now, what I am trying to do, as I said before, is to look at this in 2 ways. To look at this both generally and specifically. I was asked a question at lunchtime about how specific should we get, right, in EAP. And some people call it ESAP, as if we don't have enough letters. Right? ESAP is English for specific academic purposes. So it's meaning academic English for law, academic English for business. Right? And I think that that has a definite place. There is a definite place for the vocabulary of law, for the referencing of law. But I also think that we have to provide students with general frameworks to explain the kinds of problems that they are going to encounter. Right? So, in order for you to take a break from my voice and for me to get some water, what I'm going to do is to show you an example of a general framework that we have created for the students to show them about this response to the content, right? What they are expected to be able to do. Right? And this is basically organized according to Bloom's taxonomy. Hands up everybody who knows Bloom's taxonomy. Hands up everybody who's still awake. Okay, let's try that again another way, right? Hands up everybody who's still awake. Okay, keep your hand up if you know Bloom's taxonomy. Okay, all right. So Bloom's taxonomy is basically organizing education into different levels of cognitive demand. And what he's basically saying, or said, because it was a long time ago, is that at the bottom level you have knowledge, you're telling, right? And then you move up into application of this knowledge and analysis and evaluation and creation. And what we've tried to do is to map this to question words, right? So in order to help those people who didn't put their hand up just now to wake up, right? Let's just do a little interaction. Let me do the little teacher bit, all right? So in terms of this response, right? When your students are answering questions, they have a question from their tutor, what response words would they be expected to have? I'll give you one example, right? So one example would be discuss. Right? Discuss this aspect. Right? So what else would you have? Analyze, thank you very much. Come on, people, wake up, let's go. Compare. Compare. Summarize. Explain, thank you. Oh, deduce.
Substantiate.
Substantiate. Wow. Okay. I like it, yeah. Maybe not as common in English as it might be here. If somebody said to me, substantiate, I would be like, classify, okay, so we've got classify, right? Now, what I'm trying to do here is to show you that there are an awful lot of these words. And we can explain these words to students. We can give them translation if you want, or you can explain them and say this is what this means, this is what this means. But I think it's much better to provide them with a framework. Right? To say to them, these words map to Bloom's taxonomy. Right? You can organize these words according to their level. Right? How they work. What do they demand from you? Okay? So, I'm not sure how the sound is going to be for this. We might actually ask the gentleman to turn it down so that I can actually narrate it and tell you what's going on, but we're going to try it, right? Technology is wonderful until you try and give a presentation with it. Right? In the army, they say, no plan survives contact with the enemy. Right? My variation of that is no PowerPoint survives contact with the audience. Especially when it's got patent technology in it. Okay, so we're going to try this.
The first of these levels asks you to show what you know. For example,
can you hear this at the back?
You ask to define a word in order to show that you know the meaning of that. In academic writing, the definition cannot just be your explanation.
Can we turn it down so I can just tell people what...
You may also be asked to list something.
Okay, so I'm going to explain over the top of what we're doing here. That this is a screenshot, and basically what we are doing is providing them with a definition of each of these words, and then we're providing them with an example from a question that they might be able to do. Right? So,
however, a common mistake that students make is to spend too much time on this level because they want to show that they understand.
So what we are doing here is we are explaining to them about this bottom level, about this knowledge level.
And therefore resulting in more marks.
And then what we're trying to do is to give the students the next level up, right? To show them how this works at different levels. And as we go up, we are in the PowerPoint, in the screenshot, We are providing them with examples at different levels. And then as we go through the screenshot, as we go through the screencast, what we are going to do is to then provide them with examples of incorrect responses to a question and correct responses to a question. So we're showing them how you would not respond to this question and how you would respond to this question. So here we've got examples.
At the next level of task,
We're explaining what it means.
information about one item of problem, but comparing that with another, showing how they are similar or different.
We're taking an example from a question.
This may mean that you have to combine tasks.
We're giving them an example of how they would answer this.
Academic
We're
writing
giving them an example of something that wouldn't work. And then we're giving them an example of something that would work.
the support of the
So basically, I'm going to stop this. So basically what we're doing is we're explaining, we're exemplifying through a question, through a real question. And in this example it was smartphones and dumb phones, or smartphones and what the people selling phones call feature phones. And we're saying to them different questions, like define smartphone, list the features of or list what a smartphone does. And then we're showing them examples of what you might say that would not be academic, and what you might say that would be considered to be academic. And so we're showing them this taxonomy and how it works, how it represents the culture, the different levels of the cultural demand. And then what we're doing is we're taking this general idea and we're taking it to the specifics of a department. Right? So this is an example of a task that students were set for the Masters of Business Administration. And as you can see, it's quite a long task. Right? And it looks to be very difficult. And students look at it and they're not sure where to start. So what I say to them is, okay, let's look at this in terms of the different levels that it requires and what we have to do at the different levels. Right? Don't take pictures yet, because I've got... I'm going to show you this. Right? I'm going to show you how we do this in terms of mapping it out. So the topic that we have here, right, is leadership. It's this bit here. Right? So this is the topic. Leadership, and it's divided here into transactional and transformational, and then it's telling us what to do in this lazy level. So we break it down, and we say to the students, this is asking us to look at leadership, and it's divided into these two areas, the transformational and the transactional. And at this level, what it's asking us to do is to define or describe. Right? You're defining these concepts. So it's at this bottom level. Right? The first thing that you do is define it, describe it, explain it, tell me about it. Right? And you're describing this in this exercise in relation to high-performance work practices. Right? So I'm coming back again to this needs analysis. This is a basic needs analysis of what the students are expected to be able to do. And then, we're breaking it into two parts. Right? The task says, analyze this, and look at the impact. Right? Analyze the impact of these two things on leadership. Right? Does anybody here know the difference between transformational and transactional leadership? Hands up. Right? Okay, 1. 2, 3. Okay. Well, they'll be following along, and the rest of you will be going, right, look at the pretty pictures. I was going to say that earlier. This is the reason why I wore this shirt, right? If you get bored, just look at the shirt. So, we are looking at this analysis, right? We're told to look at this analysis in two ways. In terms of organizational performance, and in terms of individual workers. Right? So this is what the assignment tells us to do. Right? This is how we define it. Now, when I showed the business students this, What do you think their response was? Was their response good, positive, or negative? Hands up positive. Hands up negative. Why do you think negative?
Because they're in Russia.
Well, negative because it's very complex? Because most of the students that I was teaching were looking at this and saying, oh wow, oh that's much easier than I thought it was. Oh okay, yeah, I can do that. That's not so difficult. Because basically, what we've done here is we've organized it into the different sections. Right? We've told them, you have to do this, you have to do this, you have to do this. Here are the sections. Here are the pieces. Right? Now, the problem is, coming back to this aspect of culture. Right? I said that culture is one of the biggest influences of why students make mistakes. Right? So even when I did this, even when I explained to the students, this is what is expected of you, they still created essays that were getting very low marks. And the basic reason that they were creating essays that were getting low marks was because they were describing. Right? So they looked at this and they said, I can do that. Yeah, I can describe this, I can describe the transformational, transactional, no problem, piece of cake. Right? I can describe high performance work practices, hey, that's easy. This is high performance, this is high performance, this is high performance. I can describe or analyze organizational performance, right? So I can say, right, the impact of transactional leadership on organizational performance in this area, in this area, in this area, in this area. Easy. Right? I can do it the same, right? I can do the same for transformational. That's no problem. But what I said to them is, you haven't done anything with the information. Right? You've not told me, sorry, you've told me lots about this, but you haven't actually done anything with it. You haven't transformed it. Right? So, you tell me, this is asking them to do what? What is it? What's the focus of this? What do they have to do? What's the most important thing?
Analyze.
To analyze what? What's the word next to analyze? Speculate about the impact. Right? How much does this impact? Right? So it's at this higher level of Bloom's taxonomy, it's saying analyze the impact, which is basically another way of saying tell me how much. Right? What if? Right? What if I just do transformational? Right? If I just do transformational leadership, which means transformational leadership means to focus on change, focus on transforming things. Right? Whereas transactional is often seen as focusing on managing things, making sure things keep moving, keep going along. Right? So, we need to move from this, from a descriptive, to this, right? Which is an analytical and evaluative model. Right? And what we are doing in here, the most important thing is this aspect here. Right? The how and the how much. Right? How does it impact and how much does it impact? Right? Because then you are basically saying, here is all the information, but I have taken it and I have identified this is the key aspect. Right? And then I was saying to you before, this helps us then to understand the structure. Right? So we're looking at this as the structure of the areas, right? the section. And when we have that structure, what we are then doing is we then have the language. So we then know from this, right, what kind of language
we're going to be expected to use. And the language in this case is how and how much. Right? So here we have the vital, the crucial, the fundamental. Right? And then extremely important, quite important, much more important, very important. Right? And something as simple as this creates a huge difference in the level of marks. Right? It basically moves students from where they may pass to where they will almost certainly get a pass and maybe into a merit and often into a distinction, because they are analysing, right, their evaluator. Okay? So we need to have support from this idea, this language, and this outline. We need to get support from this from different areas. Right? I can't just say, this is what I think. I need to be able to show students that this is true. So one of the key areas that we look at is the Senate scale. And the Senate scale is the university. Right? So this is what the university marks students on. Right? So I'm going to ask you to just look at that and tell me which areas do you think include evaluation and analysis. Right? Where are the students required to evaluate and to analyse? Do you think? Are they required to evaluate and to analyse in this one? Learning outcomes.
Yes.
Yeah, hands up yes? Hands up no? Hands up, I'm not putting my hand up. Hands up, I have no idea because I've fallen asleep. Okay, I'll show you. So this is an example of a description of what is expected at these different levels. And so if you look here, what you've got is link between theory and practice, related issues and or standards. Right? So you've not just got to be able to describe it, you're not just defining it, you are showing how this applies, how it works in the real world. Right? And similarly here, right, we're looking at the issues and the debates. So it's not just giving the information, it's showing how this is related to an issue, related to argument, right, that people are making. Okay? And we go through this and we can see it here in all these different levels, right? You've got the critical analysis, the originality, the creativity, all these different areas. Every one of them is asking for some aspect beyond telling information, beyond just describing or explaining. But you have to be able to indicate where this analysis, where this evaluation is coming in. Right? Okay, and so this is the research in terms of culture, right? How culture is related to or impacts on academic standards, academic expectations. Okay? But what I'm just going to focus on for the last part is to show you how we do this in terms of looking at student texts. Right? So, here is an example of what a student would get in terms of the marks that they would get back from the tutor to say, here is my feedback on why I have given you this mark. Right? And so the tutors would be looking at the structure, the analysis, the referencing, the style. And they would be looking in these different areas. Right? So in terms of the structure, you're expecting them to have a clear introduction. And then what the information that the students get would be this comment. Right? This report contains all the sections I would expect, though not in the order I would expect them. Right? This is a polite way of saying, yes, nice information, but doesn't really do what I expected it to do. Right? And so what we need to be able to do here, or what I need to be able to do here, is to take this information, take this this comment, this feedback, and relate it to what the students are expected to do. And so I basically do this through getting the students to look at models of work that other students have done. So to show them the way in which a student, say, has done this, has produced this, right? And to ask them, has this text, has this information done what is expected of it, right? So have they used models, right? Have they described the models? That's the first level. But then, have they gone on to analyze using these models? Have they then made recommendations, and are the recommendations real? Right? So we're looking at these texts in terms of whether it's done these things. Right? An analysis, but an analysis of what the students have done in terms of these expectations here. Right? So actually, have they met those expectations? And so we've got this example here of a student that has done a PESTLE analysis, this example of PESTLE analysis, and this one here. Right? So 3 examples of PESTLE analysis. And we're asking the students to then go through each one of those and analyze them in those terms. Right? And then what we do is we show them a model of how the tutor has then responded to this in terms of the text. So we're taking the students through the analysis that the tutor has done. Right? We're trying to get the students to get inside the mind of the tutor to be able to explain, to be able to understand what the tutor is expecting. Right? And to understand it in terms of what it should look like. So, in terms of the tutors at the university, what we are now doing is we're moving from English language support to what they are beginning to call English language assessment support, right? Or assessment support within the department. Right? Because what they have recognized is that the language that the students are using and the structures and the text that they are creating is part of the assessment that they're doing. Right? And that they need guidance on how to get through those aspects, right? And how to attack those areas of the text or those aspects of the task in order to fulfill the expectation. Okay. So, I've walked you through the tutors, the texts, the tasks, the university criteria. There's one area that I haven't gone through. Anybody awake enough to tell me the area that I have not yet gone through? The information that I haven't covered. The most important people. Yeah, tutors think that they are the most important people, yes. I would agree with you there. Many tutors do think they are the most important.
Students.
The students. Right? So, one of the things that we are doing at the moment, one of the things that we are focusing on at UEA at the moment, is getting feedback from students. Right? Because what we believe is that it is nice, it is good for me to be able to turn around to a student and say, I understand your course. I understand the assignments, I understand the assessment, I have all this knowledge in my head, look at me. Am I not a magnificent person? All this understanding, all this knowledge, I'm fantastic. And what we have found is that the student says, no. You are not as fantastic as you think you are. And what actually happens is that students get most of their information by talking to each other. Right? You've heard of the Chinese whispers thing. It should actually be called student whispers. Right? Because I will talk to students about assignments and I will say, why did you write it like this? And they will say, because my friend said so. And I will say, but I told you last week you have to do this and this and this. And they will say, yes, but my friend said. What? Okay, how long has your friend been teaching academic English? You are being funny. No, you are being stupid. Right? But that's what they do. Right? You know, all this social networking, you know, fantastic thing. It's great. But the problem is that when it comes down to it, the information that I give the students goes through a translation service of the other students. Right? And very often what the other students hear when I'm talking is things like, description is a very important thing. Description is part of your analysis. Description. All they hear is description, description, description. And then they go and talk to each other and they say, what should we do? He said description. What? Where did you get this idea from? Right? So, we are currently in the process of creating a MOOC, right? A massive open online course. Now, creating a MOOC is difficult enough anyway because you have to think about what you're going to put online and how the student's going to do it. But we've kind of set ourselves an extra difficulty because what we've done is we've gone to the students and said, as I said we should, what are the problems that you're having? What is causing you difficulty? Right? Because basically what we want to be able to do with that MOOC, right? And I put the link on the front page of my PowerPoint, if anybody took a picture at the beginning, right? With that MOOC is we want to be able to say to the students, okay, this is not from me, I'm not telling you anything yet, right? Listen to this student. Right? This student is telling you, listen to them. And it's funny because what students often say is exactly the same thing that I said, but they say it after they have failed. Right? So what commonly happens is that I tell them, evaluation is very important, you must analyze, don't do so much description. And they don't do this. And then they hand in the thing to the tutor, and the tutor gives them a low mark, and then they suddenly remember what they said. They suddenly understand and go, right? It's why there's a joke. Why do students have flat foreheads? Learning objects, but the focus of the learning object was these interviews with the students. We interviewed them and we said, what problems are you having? And then we interviewed the tutors. And we said to the tutors, okay, so this student is saying this is a problem. Surprise, surprise. Now you have the opportunity, right? Now the student is saying to the other students, oh, guess what? Evaluation is very important. Now you have the chance to tell the student what they should be doing, right? So tell them. Right? And we put this video, this material together, and at the beginning of every unit, we start this material, we start these units with this material. And what we're doing as part of the Nile online project, which Olga was talking to you about, we're offering free places on this. The Nile project is reflecting that, reflecting a lot of the work that I'm doing. We're doing in distance, We're doing it online, so that you can cover these areas and look at what we're doing with students, what we're doing in terms of culture and reading in different ways. So, I'm now going to shut up and finish by letting the students, I hope this video is going to work, I hope it's going to be loud enough, you might need to be a little quiet. Right, so I'm going to let the students and the teachers talk for themselves.
For me, the first criteria is not to miss the key point, the requirement of the task. If I misunderstood about the requirement of the assignment, maybe I will lose mark. And indeed, the previous semester, I submitted one assignment, and I thought maybe I will get a high mark, but after that, the mark was much lower than I expected.
We want to get a mark from the reader, from the teacher. So of course, we have to meet the task they give us.
It's absolutely vital for students to understand task requirements. Often we get feedback from lecturers, and I've given this feedback myself when I've been assessing, that students haven't answered the question.
They might write a wonderful assignment, it might be beautiful, it might be perfectly correct, but if it doesn't answer the question, it's going to fail.
It's really important to have no more than 1/3 of your essay as description and 2/3 as analysis, because assignments should be not descriptive but analytical. Probably because description is something which is variable, and you can come up with description after reading the material, but analysis is something which belongs to you, and that's a part of the creative work, and that shows your personal development.
Before I came to UK, I misunderstood about the critical thinking. Before, I think critically means to say, just simply say negative thing, but in here, I was told by my tutor, critical discussion is not only saying bad or negative thing, but also positive thing, and to evaluate both things.
They may also not really answer the question in terms of having some analysis. It might just be description, and most academic essays require some analysis.
It's quite common for students to misinterpret a question and answer the question that they want to answer, and to kind of redefine or rewrite the question in some cases. And that's a big no-no in academic writing.
Thank you very much.